So, I made a video a couple weeks ago about a woman talking about how she forgives the murderers of her child who literally killed her child unprovoked in a racial hate crime. Okay? And I got to talking about how a lot of black people have this weird forgiveness kink. And I don't think I mentioned it in that video, but I'm going to mention it now. It's weird how whenever a white person kills a black person in like some unprompted racial attack, all the family members will talk about, oh yeah, I forgive you, so and so and so. But if a black person was to kill your family member in an unprovoked attack, you'll be hooting and hollering about every flaw in the black community and this, that, and how we need to do better, how you not forgiving, and how you need to hold them accountable to the fullest extent of the law, and so and so and so. But when it's white folks who did it, suddenly we sing in a different tune. But anyway, I'm back to talk more about that video. Like I said at the time, I didn't have a lot of time because I was about to go on vacation, but here I am to talk about it in its entirety. Now, before I get into the specificity of this story, because when I first talked about it, I was just speaking in general, right? Because like I said, I didn't have time to look into it and all of that, right? I want to mention the fact that now that I'm actually looking at this story, apparently the family is Jamaican, okay? And when I initially made this video, I didn't even know that. I didn't mention the ethnicity of the family, right? And nobody did in the comments because this is the thing. This family could have easily been Black American or whatever else because, again, this happens all the time. This is some weird thing Black people, period, do. It really doesn't have anything to do with any specific sort of ethnicity of Black people. Black people, period, by and large, right, for the most part, okay? I'm not saying all of us because there are, Black Muslims, especially in Africa, right? But the vast majority of Black people, period, are Christian, okay? And even the Muslims, because granted, y'all don't worship, Jesus and whoever else, all that turn the other cheek stuff. But I mean, y'all are worshiping the gods of your oppressors and acting like those people love you too, acting like they're your brothers and sisters in our lives. So honestly, you in the same mess, okay? So whatever, let's get into this, right? Now, this young man, his name was Anthony Delano Walker. He was a Black British student of Jamaican descent who was murdered with an ice axe by Michael Barton, brother of footballer Joey Barton, and Barton's cousin, Paul Taylor, in an unprovoked attack on the night of July 29th, 2005 in Hoyton, Merseyside? Is that what that says? I don't know. Walker was 18 years old and was in his second year of A-levels. He lived with his parents, G. Walker and Steve Walker, his two sisters, and one brother. The Walker family was one of the first Black families to live in Hoyton, and the children experienced racial name-calling at both primary and secondary school. Both Walker and Taylor attended Knowsley Hay High School. Taylor and Barton had a reputation for racially abusing others. Taylor had prior convictions for battery and burglary, and at the time of the crime was on early release from a young offenders center. Anthony Walker spent the evening of July 29, 2005 at home with his girlfriend, Louise Thompson, babysitting his nephew. At 11 p.m., the couple left the house and walked to the bus stop along with Walker's cousin, Marcus Benz. There, they encountered Michael Barton, age 17, who threatened to stab Walker and Benz. As Walker, Thompson, and Benz walked to another bus stop near McGoldrick Park, Barton and his friend, Paul Taylor, age 20, followed them in a car and drove to the park, ambushing them when they reached it. Benz and Thompson managed to escape and ran away to get help, while Walker was fatally wounded when Taylor struck him in the head with an ice axe, which lodged in his skull, causing brain death. He was taken to Whiston Hospital and then to the Walton Center, where he died at 5:25 a.m. By the next morning, Barton and Taylor had fled to Amsterdam. When police named them as suspects, Barton's brother, footballer Joey Barton, appealed for them to return to the UK and turn themselves in. They flew back to Liverpool on the 3rd of August and were arrested and charged with Walker's murder. The trial took place between November and December 2005, and on December 1st, Taylor and Barton were convicted of the murder. passing life sentences with minimum terms of 23 years and 8 months for Taylor, who had admitted the murder just before the trial, and 17 years and 8 months for Barton. Lord Justice Levinson said that the cousins had perpetuated a terrifying ambush and a racist attack of a type poisonous to any civilized society. Barton's sentence was reduced by 8 months to 17 years in 2016 in recognition of improvements in his attitude and behavior. Barton was released from prison in September 2022 after serving 17 years. After the trial concluded, racist graffiti was left at the murder scene. In April 2006, it was reported that Barton had been attacked by fellow inmates at Moreland Closed Prison near Doncaster, South Yorkshire. 3 other people were later found guilty of helping Barton and Taylor flee to the Netherlands before their eventual arrest. On May 10, 2006, Robert Williams was convicted of providing money and booking a hotel room for the pair. He was sentenced to 2 years and 4 months. Paul Morrison was sentenced to 11 months in prison for providing a getaway car. Tracy Garner admitted assisting an offender and received an 11-month suspended sentence and 50 hours of community service. Walker's mother explained her attitude towards her son's killer, saying, "I have to forgive them. I can't feel anger and hatred because that is what killed my son." However, Walker's girlfriend Louise, who was present on the night of his murder, says she never would forgive them, adding, "I hate them for what they've done. Anthony and I shared something special. Now he has been taken away from me by those 2 evil young men. I still feel that he, Anthony Walker, is around. Yesterday I sent Anthony a text and just told him he, Barton, had been found guilty. It seemed the natural thing to do." Walker's murder and the subsequent trial of the perpetrators received a large amount of media coverage in the UK, with the media pack congregating at John Lennon Airport awaiting the return of the accused. His funeral was broadcast live on a big screen in Liverpool city centre, and the BBC ran a special real story program about the crime, which was broadcast on December 2nd, 2005. Now, I have a few things to say about this topic, but I'll start with kind of reiterating what I said in the first video that I made about this. I understand not letting hatred consume you or anything like that, because of course your son is gone and there's nothing that will change that, right? I get that. I get trying to, I don't want to say come to terms, right? Because that's not a good way to put it, right? But I guess I get trying to live with the fact as well as you can, right? I get that, right? But how could you ever say that you forgive the people who murdered your son for no reason other than the fact that he was black and minding his business? Like, literally, your son went to the bus stop. These people started threatening him. He said, okay, I'm going to walk to the other bus stop. Like, I'm going to avoid this confrontation. And they followed him and ambushed him. And you talking about you forgive them? Like, my first reaction is to call his mother a dumb ass, raggedy ass bitch, because how could you, right? But in my new life, I'm trying not to, resort to such things, right? So I guess I would just ask, literally, how could you? How could you sit here and say that you forgive the people who did something like that to your son? Mind you, I don't have kids. I cannot imagine the love that a mother feels for her child. I cannot imagine it, right? But just knowing how much I love the people I love, how could you sit here and say, like, I'm at a loss here? Some things are simply unforgivable, right? And of course, like I said, you have to learn to live with some things, because of course we can't take the past back or anything like that, right? But again, some things are unforgivable. Like, imagine somebody raping your child and you talking about, yeah, I forgive the rapist of my child. Why the fuck would you say some shit like that? Like, what are we saying here? Now, it's one thing for you to say, I'm trying to learn to live with the anger because, I can't go back in time and stop this from happening. So I'm going to have to learn how to deal with it. But how dare you say that you forgive this person for doing something like this to your child? I don't get this. I don't get this at all. I'm at a complete loss. And as a couple people mentioned in the comments, and as I think I mentioned in the first video that I made about this, a lot of this comes from y'all Christianity, Muslim, whatever kink. That whole turn the other cheek thing. Oh, master enslaved me and so, but I forgive him because we's all children of God. Girl, fuck you. I'm sorry, but again, I don't even know your son, and I'm not forgiving the people who killed him for killing him simply because he was black. So how can you, as his mother, now, my next thing is this, right? It's the fact that this, what was his name? Was it Delano? No, it was Anthony Delano. It's the fact that this boy, Anthony, right? He tried to avoid the confrontation. These people came at him acting crazy. And he was like, I'm going to just walk to another bus stop and mind my business, whatever, right? And they followed him and ambushed him, right? Now, granted, this article said that they went to school together, right? So, I mean, like, let's try to, let's assume worst case scenario. Maybe something happened between them at school. Maybe Anthony did something to slight this boy, and then when he saw him, he was like, oh, I gotta shut up at school type. You know what I'm saying? Let's pretend, right? But honestly, it's hard to even give that benefit of the doubt based off the fact that in this literal article, they said that these two white boys had a history of racially attacking people. Like, quite literally. So even if you try to sit here and try to say, oh, well, like maybe something happened between them and Anthony is really the aggressor, you can't even do that because they even say, and the one white boy had a burglary, battery charges and whatever else. He was out for who knows how long and then went and killed somebody. Like, what? Like, now the next thing I want to address is the fact that non-Americans, period, because it's not just folks from the UK or wherever this happened. I think they said it was the UK, right? It's not just them, right? Non-Americans, period, love to use white Americans as a scapegoat. Whenever anything racist happens in America, non-Americans are hooting and hollering, oh, this doesn't happen here. Oh, my goodness. Why are Americans so focused on race? Yada, yada, yada. Look at how y'all act. Look at how y'all act in y'all countries. Look at it, right? And honestly, I can't just call out the non-black non-Americans. I got to call out the black non-Americans too. Now, of course, I don't know the specifics of this family or anything. I mean, based off of the mother's response to what happened to her son is giving cooning, but I'm not going to go so far as to make those assumptions, right? But what I will say is this. A lot of times you have black people who are not black Americans saying equally stupid ass shit, right? Talking about, oh, black Americans make everything about race, so and so and so. But look at you. When you move to the UK, look at you, right? Y'all talk about black Americans make everything about race, but look at the first thing that happened to you as soon as you left your black predominant country and moved around white people. So you can send them countries where everybody is black and say that dumb shit. Duh, there's no racism in a country where everybody is black, right? But look at what happens to you as soon as you go to a place like the UK. After all that stupid shit y'all talked about black Americans, well, blackness is a colonial concept. I ain't black, I'm that. Why black Americans make everything about race, so and so and so. But look at you, though. Now, the next thing I want to say is this, because in this article it mentions that Anthony Delano was an A-level student. Now, I'm not European. I don't really know much about what that means, but it sounds good, okay? It sounds better than F levels. I'll tell you that right now, right? Anthony Delano was an A-level student. Meanwhile, these white dudes was a bunch of thugs and criminals, quite literally, off, out of jail for a little while and immediately murdered somebody. That's the type of folks they was, right? Something I've mentioned, right, about racists. Something I've mentioned about racists, right, is that racism is a coping mechanism for white people, non-black people, whoever, right? Because you'll have the biggest loser in the fucking world, right? The biggest loser, just a complete bum, a bunch of criminal records, in and out of jail, so and so and so, right? And the only way they can cope with life is with racism, because they'll say, okay, well, I'm a huge fucking loser, but at least I'm not black, at least I'm not a nigger, right? And that's why these people get so personally offended when they see a black person who is doing better than them, who has more than them in any capacity, more money, more education, more whatever, right? They get personally offended because suddenly that coping mechanism that they rely so heavily on doesn't really work, right? So when you a fucking loser like this, right, who knows if he even finished school, criminal, in and out of jail, right? And you tell yourself, well, at least I'm not black, right? And then you turn around and you look at the black person doing better than you, that's a slap in the face. And it threatens your entire sense of self-worth, basically, because that's the only thing you were holding on to. You don't have anything but that, at least I'm not black. And then you turn and you see the black people doing better than you. Hold up. A couple years ago, this had to be 2022, because I know I had just graduated from grad school, right? I got into it with this white guy because he was being very rude to the employees in Domino's. And one thing about me, I can't stand seeing people be rude to people who are at work. Like you just taking out all your frustrations on them because they at work and you figure, well, they need their job, so they can't say nothing back. That gets on my nerves, right? So he was just cutting up on him, and I was like, can you shut up, right? So then we got into it, and he said, you sound so uneducated. And I said, well, I still got that master's degree from the University of Michigan, Ann Arbor, in cancer chemical biology, so I guess I can sound like what the fuck I want to sound like. Like, what? So then he was like, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. And I literally said, you don't have to believe it. Like, what? Like, do you really think that you not believing something means that it's not true? Imagine somebody saying, I don't believe that the sun rose today. Who gives a fuck? The sun still rose. What are we talking about here, right? But that's what I'm talking about. A lot of white people's self-worth lies in the belief that they are better than black people, right? And when they meet a black person who is doing better than them, that is like, ooh, that's a big slap in the face for them. Now, mind you, the only reason that they're doing better than as many black people as they are is because they literally go out their way to disenfranchise black people. They make sure that our schools are underfunded, or this is that. They put drugs in the neighborhoods, etc., etc., etc. But that's besides the point. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day, right? The point is, a lot of these people's self-worth lies in the belief that they are better than black people. So they take personal offense. Oh, they hate it when a black person is doing better than them. They cannot stand that shit. Anyway, I'm gonna close this video off by saying this. As a black person, if your child is murdered by racist white people for being black, and you fix your ashy ass lips to be talking about I forgive them, child, I don't even know what to say.